Just to introduce myself to everybody, my name's Lee. I'm going to be running this hour session around collaboration. There's quite a lot to get through, so it is a bite-sized session, so it's quite a whistle-stop introduction to collaboration. And as Chloe said, the slides will be sent out after. So, please do feel free to, take notes, and you can email me at the end if you've got any questions. We have got another session taking place in a couple of days as well. So all I'm going to ask you to do, I will ask you to keep yourselves on mute. Please respect one another's views. Again, if we were in a more of a conversational training session, I would ask to express your views and opinions and make a contribution. But again, we're going to try and fly through this. As I said, there's quite a lot of content to get through. I do ask that there's active listening. Any areas with participation and contribution, please do feel free to do so. If we do discuss anything, remember confidentiality when discussing anything or anybody or the individual that we might support. And as I said, Chloe will be sending around the presentation and resources after the session as well. So if I can ask you all just to, again, don't worry about your cameras. You can leave those off if you want. Please do mute yourself unless you're actually speaking. If you do have any questions, please feel free to pop those in the chat box. Again, as I am presenting, I might not be able to see them, so I might have to get back to you at the end of that. And again, any questions, please do raise your hand, but I will say we'll probably be covering most of that throughout the session anyway. So by the end of this hour, we're hoping you're going to have a little bit of an understanding or a little bit more of an understanding around what collaborative working actually is, recognising the benefits of collaborative working. And it's not just looking at collaborative working within different agencies or our own departments, it's also with the people and the beneficiaries and the individuals that we're working with as well. So a slight slant on some co-production there. We'll be looking at some key components that contribute to successful collaborative working. I think a lot of the time we think we're being collaborative, but actually are we? Crucial teamwork and collaboration skills, how we can improve on those. How to apply this into practice and ways to build on collaborative working. So hopefully we'll all have a little bit more of an understanding after this bite-sized section. So nowadays, as it says here, there's a massive focus on team effort. There's a multitude of benefits to be reaped by collaborative working, as it says here. Generally within the workplace, and it could be with separate departments, it could be, as I said earlier, with different agencies we're working with or with the individuals themselves. But it does give employees, if we're looking at it within the workplace, it gives employees a much greater satisfaction. And it also allows us to brainstorm and map out ideas and look at different skills that people contribute as well. So every input is valuable. And that's really where we look at collaboration. It is a massive positive impact that it could have on the organisation, looking at innovate in an innovative way, and it creates a coercive environment. And as it says here, it's the perfect vehicle for creative thinking and idea generation as well. So if we are working with those more complex cases, you might find that actually one person might have a little bit more experience working in another area, but actually are we tapping into other skills and resources within the department? So a great phrase here that I like: coming together is the beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. And actually really, really hard as well, especially in the way that we work now. So we're working in quite an agile environment, and it's really hard sometimes because we don't think, or we do think, but we wonder whether a question warrants an email or a phone call. It is really, really valuable. And if you're unsure, then again, it's really important to tap into those skills within departments. So collaboration itself, it means working with others to achieve a common goal in a nutshell, such as completing a task. It could be developing or generating new ideas, and also the way that we work within our departments. Collaboration in the workplace, it does happen when generally 2 or more employees work together to accomplish a plan and a goal. And again, these outcomes can be massively influential to the ideas and generations of those as a whole. And it is common knowledge that groups of workers can accomplish more than individuals working in silo. And we know that when you work in silos, sometimes we can get in our own heads and we worry, did I get this right? Did I get that right? But again, for mapping things out and getting those creative answers and really just making sure we're doing the very best we can. So generally, that is what collaboration is. So we're all working in teams and departments nowadays. So we all have the abilities. We all have them available there. And the abilities are generally, they're acknowledging various perspectives. So again, it's not shutting people off, it's allowing people to contribute successfully. Now, it might not be the right answer or the right method, or that we need for that specific sort of collaboration. But again, it does generate those ideas, and it generates conversations and narratives, and that's really where we want it to go. It also allows us to balance competing demands and also being a dependable team player as well. So in addition to working together towards a similar objective, it's much easier when you have collaborative skills. So a few examples can include being able to articulate your thoughts and feelings clearly, listening attentively, owning up to your errors, and appreciating unique perspectives of your co-workers. And again, that could be co-workers or beneficiaries or stakeholders that we're working with as well. Now, the benefits of collaboration is it's generally, it really helps us identify problem-solving skills. It allows us to be much more adaptable in the way that we work. It allows open communication and participation. It makes you feel valued as well. If people are listening to you, it might not be the right context of what we need within that actual moment, but it makes people feel valued when you're listening to people and allowing them to have that contribution. It allows us to share skills. We've all got different skills and experiences, cultures and values. So again, it allows us to pull in with those. And it makes sure that everybody's singing, I don't like this phrase, but singing from the same hymn book. It makes sure that we're all on the same page, and we're all trying to align ourselves with those same outcomes. And as well, it helps us engage with the individuals that we're working with people within the workplace as well. So there's some really core benefits of collaboration. And a lot of us are doing that already, if I'm being entirely honest. We're doing it without even thinking. But it improves the way the team works together. It helps with them problem solves, and it leads to more innovation, efficient processes, increased success, and improved communication. So there's some really good key bits that you can get out of successful collaboration. Through listening and learning from team members, we can help each other reach our goals as well. So it avoids confusion. So if we're working within a multi-agency meeting and we're working with maybe an individual and we're a little bit confused on or a little bit challenged on what we're going to do with that, it avoids the confusion as to where those responsibilities lie. It provides a purpose for why we're doing things. It also fosters a transparent company culture as well. It creates accountability for when things might not go as expected, and it builds productivity and growth within that area as well, whether that's a project or the team or the individual. So collaboration really is the key. It makes people feel valued. So as Chloe mentioned at the beginning of this session, she mentioned about the SAR 21 that's just been released, and a really good example of sort of missed opportunities with collaborative working was the Jonathan SAR. And if you haven't had the chance yet to read the Jonathan SAR, I would definitely recommend you head over to the NSAB website. And Jonathan, he died in temporary accommodation in Wellingborough in December 2019. So I appreciate it's a little bit dated, but this is a really good example of some missed opportunities. He was a 46-year-old white male. He had care and support needs that were identified. He had experienced neglect, abuse, and self-neglect as well. So we knew all of this. And when he passed away, we did a multi-agency meeting and we did the safeguarding adult review upon his case. And we identified that there were 700 chronological events by several agencies. And there was over 40 visits to the emergency department within 2019. And professionals had concerns over his well-being and his risks of life, but nothing was raised. And unfortunately, as a result of that, Jonathan did pass away. And that is, again, it's not putting blame anywhere, because that's not what collaboration is, but it's about identifying that within that specific SAR, by collaborative working, we could have really prevented that. And that's what we learned from that. So I'd recommend if you do get the chance, then definitely read the Jonathan SAR, because as I said, several agencies, 700 chronological events were in his diary. So there was a massive piece of learning there that we picked up on. So do try and read that. But it taps into existing skills and knowledge within the workforce and within the individual. Remember, they are the experts of their lives. It it allows us to understand the bigger picture. So it's a strengths-based approach that we use with the local authority, especially with the three conversation models for those of you that work within the NNC. And it allows us to look at things from a different perspective. So it sort of takes off that unconscious bias. And it allows us to be challenged as well. So it's looking at our professional curiosity. So again, I'll definitely recommend after this, if you do get the time, definitely head over to the NSAB website and have a little look at the Jonathan Saar. And that's a real good example of where collaboration wasn't actually happening. So collaboration in any workplace may take numerous forms, depending on the people involved and also the media that we use as well. It could be from a comms perspective. So for instance, collaborating with a colleague on a really short campaign is going to look very, very different with a massive campaign, a massive project. So it's important to think about how that collaboration might look and what we're trying to get out of that as well. Within collaboration, we also have to look at our personal communication styles. And a lot of the time, those personal elements of that is we need to be mindful that spoken words actually only account for 7% of communication. 38% we actually pick up on the voice and tone, and 55% is the body language. So when we are collaborating, we need to be mindful that are we missing out on any one of those areas? Body language nowadays, how do we measure that body language, and how do we pick up on those little signs if we are working in a remote environment or a an agile environment? So again, we're missing out on those things. So it's important that when we are working collaboratively, we need to be looking at those three compact areas, and we need to be sure that if we're not able to see that body language, how are we picking up on that? Because that actually tells us a lot about when we're putting that collaboration together. The three models of communication style when you are working collaboratively is the written communication. So it's difficult since so many non-verbal cues get lost in translation. It's preferable to watch somebody's tone and vocabulary. Your writing should be easy to understand and free from mistakes. And if the information has a timing crunch, ensure the recipient knows about it. So don't just send an email and say, this is what we found. You need to be clear. If you're working collaboratively with somebody, you need to put time frames together, and you need to ensure that people understand that there is an expectation that things need to be provided back to you and what that contribution is. When we look at the non-verbal communications, that includes what and how you talk to your co-workers. And it says co-workers there, but I actually want to extend that to, agencies that we might be working with and that individual as well. So the verbal does mean up for a lot of it. And as much as possible, you should state your case concisely and clearly. You should also treat those whom you disagree with dignity, and keep in mind that there's going to be some conflicting viewpoints within that as well. So that is, collaboration. It's really concerning if everybody initially agrees on something that might be collaborative working. It's really healthy to challenge. It's healthy to challenge the views, not the individual. Don't get personal about it. But looking at people's strengths and skills and what they can bring to the table. And then when we look at the non-verbal, which makes up for most of the communication styles, it will reveal more about people's emotions and thoughts than words ever could. And we know that when you see somebody sitting there with their crossed arms and their turned head, it tells you that you're not interested, in which case people then tend to back away. So if you are working with somebody, you might not agree with what they're saying, but make sure that you're not sitting there looking disinterested. They might be trying to get to a point that actually has real meaning and can really make a change in the way that we work with these individuals. So be mindful of your body language, be mindful of the tone of your voice, facial expressions. These are factors that we're sometimes unaware that we're doing, but actually it can really create a bit of separation with the person that you're collaborating with. So just be mindful of those communication styles as well. Now, also when we look at collaboration, we also look at the ability to listen and comprehend. It's a crucial communication skill. So the process involves more than just hearing or reading what your co-workers or other contributors have to say. You should actively listen without passing judgment. And if you're unsure, it's okay to say, could you just explain that to me? Could you just give me a bit more detail? Because if you are working in collaboration and there's an expectation and there's a certain area that you should be completing, if you're unsure of that and you're going away with that with a lack of clarity, the chances are it's going to be wrong. And the autonomy has to, you have to take some autonomy if that does go wrong. So make sure that you are clarifying that as well, so that everybody understands what our input is when you are working collaboratively. So workplaces are full of individuals from various backgrounds. We know that in the sectors that we work in, especially in adult social care, a lot of people have worked in different areas. They've got different experiences. They've got different skills. So it's really important to tap into those as well, especially the specialist areas. So hear every worker out. Take the time to listen to people. They might not have specifically worked within, let's just say, safeguarding. We'll use that as an example. They might not have worked within safeguarding, but they might have extensive experience in working with somebody that have gone through that safeguarding procedure, and they might have gone through something similarly, by working with that individual. So hear them out. Don't dismiss them straight away. Understand people's intentions, and again, as we said again, clarify any assumptions or communication gaps. That's the biggest thing when we do work in collaboration. It's that misunderstanding, and people feel that they understand what their responsibility is, but when it comes to it, there's loads of areas that have been overlooked. So again, there's some good points and tips there as well. So with empathy and emotional intelligence, again, these directly tap into to collaborating. So empathy and emotional intelligence, you can see when a co-worker is distressed, you can generally pick up on that. Again, that's when we look at the elements. And if I go back here, we can look at the elements of personal communication. So we need to be really looking more about the body language, the tone of voice, and the spoken words as well. So again, oh, sorry, there we go. So the ability to listen and comprehend, I'll spit this out. Where is it? There we go. So emotional and empathy, that is a really good skill that we need to really roll out, particularly if we're working on a project and with external agencies as well. So it's understanding that people may come from different backgrounds. They may have different ways of articulating that information. So just be patient with that. And if you feel down on the job, a colleague with high emotional intelligence will generally understand that, pick up on that, and they should support you. So if you are finding it a bit of a challenge when you are working collaboratively, it's always important to, reconfirm exactly what it is that's expected of you. And the ability to assist and collaborate improves significantly in a workplace where employees are emotionally intelligent and empathetic. So it's understanding when people are struggling a little bit and where they might not understand. So people might not feel comfortable to say, well, actually, I don't understand what you expect of me. And I think we can all probably agree that we've been in a situation where we've just said, yes, I'll do that, and we haven't really understood the full thing. And that can come back to haunt us and bite us in the backside. So it's really important that we do get that clarity on what's expected. And emotionally intelligent workers, they're less likely to find criticism or feedback offensive. So I know that when I've given feedback, previously in different jobs, there's a lot of defense in that. So if you are emotional intelligence, you can accept that and you can say, okay, well, I'm going to learn from that and we'll move ahead. So when we look at conflict resolution, again, this can be a massive thing when we're collaborating, especially if one person's got one view and one vision and another's got another, especially if we're working in a multi-agency capacity and we're working with an individual that might have care and support needs. And then, one person feels that they might not need that. Another person might think they will. So it can be quite conflicting, especially when everybody feels they're right. So conflict resolution, generally, it's really important to have a little think about how we deal with conflict resolution, especially in a collaborative environment. So conflict resolution generally means that you take the time to hear each other out. So we're not making those assumptions. We're not cutting people off. We're allowing them to speak and articulate their thoughts and views through experiences. It allows us to maintain personal responsibility and accountability. So again, if you are working on a big piece of work and, there's probably 5 different agencies working on that, excuse me, if we're not clear on exactly what that responsibility is, then how do we put accountability to that? So it also feeds into that. It also allows us to try and understand the problem without I can't spit that word out, without placing blame on anybody. So we want to move away from that blame culture. We want to really go to, a resolution factor. And when we are working collaboratively, I think it's important that we're all there for the same reason. So sometimes we just have to strip it back a little bit and remind ourselves why we're there. And remember that it's a person-centered approach. So it's not about our agenda. It's not what we think is best. It's using our experiences that we might have picked up on and maybe, using those, but not putting our own motives on other people. It allows us to treat other people with dignity and respect based on their idea sharing, and tries to work out your differences amicably. So again, it's really important that if you are working collaboratively, you have to have understand how conflict resolution works. And it typically, conflict resolution typically requires making whatever concessions are necessary for the group to reach consensus and move on. And that's really where the conflict resolution is, and collaboration, really. We're all there for the same reason. So when we look at organizational and delegation skills, massive part within collaboration there as well. So the most effective forms of collaboration occur when tasks and responsibilities are clearly defined and integrated into daily operations. Many times do people not know really where they sit within that, and time frames are really important. So when we are working on a piece of collaborative work, especially when we're working with an individual, it's really important that we put time frames against that as well. I know many times I've sent emails and I've said, oh, could you get back to me on this? And still 2 weeks later, it hasn't happened because I haven't put a time frame in place. So when we are working collaboratively, we need to be mindful that there's a lot of people contributing to this, and our work and our input could be delaying an outcome. So again, it's really important that we understand we put time frames against that as well. If we repeatedly coordinate and reassign tasks and responsibilities, we might end up frustrating and undermining the workers. So again, it's really important to let that time down as well. This is when I need it back by. And if you're compiling that piece of collaborative work, if it's a document, say, or a policy, or it could be, like I said, a care plan, then again, it's really important that everybody understands what that contribution is and how that's going to be fed down. So delegating work to team members according to their areas of knowledge is a really good way. So, if we are working collaboratively on a piece of work, have we actually gone around the table and asked what people's experiences are? We might be working in one area or one department, and I think we're quite quick to jump on the assumption that just because you work in safeguarding, that's all you really know. So it's important to have that open conversation around the table so that we can allow people to vocalize what their experience is and could be within that as well. So that could be within a project, it could be a piece of work, it could be a larger piece of work. So delegating work to team members according to their areas of knowledge, experience and competence is a valuable collaborative ability for a project or team leaders. In addition to distributing duties between a large group of employees, ensures that nobody gets overwhelmed by their workload. So if we are working collaboratively on a piece of work, it's quite crucial that we revisit that as often as we can, maybe not too much, maybe not unnecessarily, but we are actually visiting that back up so that we're keeping on top of it and people know what their roles and responsibilities are within that as well. When we look at foresight, team members will feel more valuable and motivated to work together if they have the opportunities to teach and learn from one another. So since this will make them feel like they're contributing to the company's or organization's end goals. So collaboration is nice and it's really helpful when we're working on a document, but we also have to look at how that impacts actual team members. And if we keep asking one team member to work alongside you as colleagues or managers, and we're saying, right, okay, could you do this, Jane? Could you do this, Jane? Could you do this, Jane? How is that going to make the other people feel within the team? It's probably going to make them feel quite inadequate. It's going to make them probably feel a little unsupported, and it could also pick up some favoritism within that as well. So take the time to get to know your team, get to know their skills, get to know what they can bring to the table, and let them share that. Give them the opportunity to share that. So again, don't take things at face value, and remember that within the teams that we're working with, we really need to tap into that for collaborative working, and wider teams as well, for that example. So a collaborative workplace, both management and staff are adaptable. We have to be adaptable. Things change, unexpected problems such as delays, especially if one person's working on a document and there's one part that's delayed. It can change the priorities. There could be a lack of available funds and so on. So they could arise when executing any project. So think swiftly and creatively under pressure requires experience. And the more that you work collaboratively, the easier it will become. And as I said, I'm assuming that 99% of you guys are actually working collaboratively already. It's just how we can make it more efficient when we're working collaboratively. So in the face of uncertainty, it's essential to communicate with team members and devise a plan together. It's not collaboration if you're working together, you're working in silo, and it's becoming a little bit more of a dictatorship. You need to do this, you need to do that, in which case it's really helpful in some circumstances, but not when we're working in collaboration. We have to make sure that we're having them open conversations and we're working together. So if you're working with an individual and you've held a multi-agency meeting, it's important if the social worker has come along with a plan, it's important that you all sit down and go through that plan and add anything to it as well, so that everybody feels that they've contributed to that as well. So adaptability, as I said, it's crucial to maintaining the competitive edge, since it is key to innovation, new perspectives and creative problem solving. And it also boosts productivity and morale within the team as well. So again, agility and adaptability are core parts of collaborating as well. Skill sharing, probably another massive part of collaboration as well, is the team is communicating, forecasting change and problem solving. But a team can't do this without the exchange of knowledge. We only grow with knowledge and sharing our own skills within the departments as well. So when we look at different areas that we might be working with, different agencies as well, pick up on those skills. Look at what people's backgrounds are. Look at how, where the skills are. Can somebody raise an assessment that you might not be able to? So it's really thinking openly with that. And if your team is able to bring the expertise to the table, everybody can coach each other. It allows us to teach new skills and elevate them as the team to the whole. And every good team will have a diversity of knowledge that will contribute to the new approaches in achieving success. So I know that with me, I can be a bit of a control freak, and sometimes it's easier for us to say, well, actually, do you know what? I'll do that. And it's so easy for us to get into that routine. We need to really move away from that and give people the opportunity to be able to share some of those skills and knowledge as well. And if there's anything that's lacking, it's important for us to identify that, acknowledge it, and maybe offer some further support in that as well. We need to be open as well and allow everybody to participate. So teams that collaborate also communicate. That's a massive, massive thing. We need to communicate if we're collaborating on a piece of work. And that's whether, again, and I keep saying this, that's whether it's just with us and the individual as a co-productive piece of work. It's whether we're working with outside agencies or whether we're working within our own area or our own organisation and departments. If we're not communicating, we're dictating. You're telling people what to do. Collaboration is where we're all understanding on the skills, the goals, and they're all aligning together. So again, it's important that we have open communication. So we have things such as MS Teams channels. So if you're working on a piece of work, in order to collaborate and keep that work going, maybe open up an MS Teams channel if we're all using it today, and we can share documents on that as well. So allow people to update their documents, give people that autonomy to be able to do that. We've also got SharePoint as well, so we can share documents in that means, and also in group emails. So again, it's important if you are working in silo, we really do need to be sharing that, and we need to know where those responsibilities are. So a team that knows how to collaborate is comfortable sharing their ideas. They don't feel offended. They don't feel like they're going to be shut down. We need to, accept that people have different experiences and skills, and adding new processes and tools to the table as well. So somebody can come in with some great ideas. So the level of participation means that teammates can communicate with each other in a clear and direct manner. And this brings forth the innovations and ways that teams can improve. So again, we really need to allow that open conversation. And, we can also do that within supervisions, within group supervisions, one-to-ones, appraisals, those kind of things as well. So again, allow people to participate. And just because they might not have the experience or the skills, we need to develop in that as well. And moving on nicely, that was a good link, wasn't it? How do we develop collaborative skills? So we can develop the skills by setting clear expectations. If we're not clear on exactly what everybody's role and responsibility is within collaborative work, it's going to become a big spaghetti junction. We really need to put, as I said earlier, and I know that I probably sound like a bit of a broken record, we need to have clear expectations, we need to have clear timeframes, and we need to know exactly, when we expect that work to be done. So we need to know who else is involved. So again, if you're creating an MS Teams channel, add everybody to it, let everybody know that it's there. We need to also think about, are we taking the information at face value? Now, if we're taking information at face value, we're working in silo and we're making those assumptions. You might be working with an individual from safeguarding, an adult social care, with a hospital team might be working with somebody. And it's a bit like when we go back to that Jonathan Sarr, the missed opportunities. If we're only working with them in one capacity, there's a bigger story. We know that when we work with people, there's a bigger story in the background. So different people might have different skills in extracting that information, and they might be able to contribute them a little bit more successfully. So if we are working with the person, are we taking it at face value? Are we asking multi-agencies that person's working with? So it's collaboratively working on a piece of work to understand that person's life. What other people can say, what other people can I speak to? So we've got to look at those networks, family, neighbours, any local services. It could be third sector, it could be within the local authority. So again, collaboratively, if we are trying to do, let's just say, a safeguarding report, where have we got that information from? So this is quite, low-end collaborative working, but we really need to tap into all those other agencies as well. So again, we don't want anything about assumptions. We don't want anything about, I think this happened or I think that happened. It has to be factual information. And if there is anything that we're a little bit unsure of, then it's okay at the bottom of those notes to maybe put that little asterisk to say, from my experience of working with this person and speaking to the wider networks, it was identified that X, Y, and Z. However, these have not been evidenced. So it's okay to add that as your observation, but in the case notes, it really has to be factual information unless you're evidencing that it's not. We want regular multi-agency meetings when necessary, but not too regular as well. I don't know about you guys, but we're all quite busy people. And when you get called in for a meeting and it's been unproductive, it's kind of a bit frustrating. So again, when we do need multi-agency meetings where we can collaborate and share knowledge, skills and information on the individual, we need to really be mindful that that we're actually allowing that time to do that as well. And we're not making meetings or creating meetings unnecessarily. It's on a need basis and we can book those up in advance as well. And when we are having multi-agency meetings, it's important that if somebody's collaborating to that document or to that work that we're working with that person and they can't attend, it doesn't mean they can't collaborate to that. We could easily ask them to send their notes, their thoughts, views, or information prior to the meeting, and then the person that's conducting that meeting will be able to read through that, just so it doesn't make people feel undervalued and not part of that process as well. So we also need to look at what additional services the person's using. So that could be community-based or statutory within the local authority. So we need to keep an open mind and again tap into those. And do other services have better relationships or outcomes with the individual as well? So we're looking at this from more of an individual point. So if we've got somebody, let's just say we've got a young individual who access a charity quite a lot, and they might come in to, I don't know, get support in a different statutory environment. We might find that the third sector or the charity has actually got a much better relationship, in which case the individual is going to be much more open. They're going to provide them with much more information, and that charity or that service will have a better and a much better overview, and most times more of a long-term story that backs that individual up as well. So we really need to be thinking about, those external services that they might be using as well, and how those relationships look within that. So again, that could just be an email, but that email is still working in collaboration with different agencies as well. So A few ideas to improve it within the workplace when we look at collaboration. Again, it's clearly define the objectives and the aims. If we're not clear on exactly why we're doing something, the chances are we're probably not going to do it as well as we could. So, be clear about it, be open. Obviously, we're mindful within GDPR and sharing unnecessary information. So we don't have to go into the detail of it all, but we need to give people as much information to understand how their collaborative piece of work is going to input and really input to the bigger piece of work that we're doing as well. We need to communicate the objectives extremely clearly as well. Consider other members' points of views. Again, we don't want to be shutting people down. As I said earlier, we want to avoid the blame sharing. That's a real common one. Well, they should have done that, but they didn't do it. If it's not done, it's not done. It doesn't matter who overlooked that. We need to, we can revisit that a little bit further down the line. But if we're working to a time frame, and this is where, where I said about really putting clear time frames in place, because it avoids all that blame sharing. It just makes sure that everybody understands. So if you need something on a piece of work, make sure that you put them back. Could you get back to me no later than Tuesday? If not, please, can you let me know? And most importantly on here, I think we've got to celebrate the accomplishments as well. We're working in such a reactive way that sometimes we don't stop to look at what we've achieved in a real big collaborative piece of work. So, I know that at the moment I'm working in a big piece of managers' work within NNC, and it's delivering some work around values and behaviours. And there's so many different people involved in that. And we try and catch up, every 2 weeks to celebrate the success. So we don't all make it about, obviously we need to identify the areas that we need to develop on and the things that we need to improve on. But generally speaking, we do celebrate those accomplishments as well. So, we need to keep an eye on what's working and what's not, both equally. Now, if you've ever faced a crisis at work and you didn't know who to call on for help, then again, problem solving, collaboration really helps with that problem solving as well. So it's preventable when you make collaboration a priority. So a team that knows the process and methods at hand is better equipped to streamline remedies and identify teammates who can help. So, we're all really busy. We're all working in a fast-paced environment. And with us working in the agile capacity at the moment, or hybrid capacity, are we really making time to make sure that, the people that we're working with understand what the processes are and how they and how they sort of lead into the bigger picture? We might assume that. We might assume people know. And if they've moved from one department to another, we automatically assume that they know how that place might work. But in order to make problem solving more efficient and streamline that, we really do need to make sure that we're collaborating and that we know where people's skills are as well. So to solve problems and operate productively, the workplace need the ability to leverage knowledge across the business with online, seamless, integrated and intrusive collaboration tools to enhance team members' ability to work together. So again, we really need to, make sure people understand what backs things up, because again, we can make the assumption that people know. And again, if we are working in a crisis, it's really, really good that you can tap into different people's skills as well that can help. We also need to be adaptable. So a piece of, if we're working on a live document, and especially when we're working with people, situations change, needs change. That person might evolve, they might not need services for a few years, they might come back in, but we need to be adaptable in the way that we're working with people. So like the problem solving, adaptability, it's a natural result of a collaborative team. If a team understands its functions and its end goal, so again, we're going back to that end goal, we need to make sure that everybody understands what we're here to do. They can prepare for any new situation that arises, and everybody will buy into that as well. So everybody will want to contribute to that. Change it says sure to happen. It's most probably definitely going to happen within the department and forecasting that change is predictable and prepared for the team. So teams and organizations have to change at a pretty rapid pace. And if the team isn't aligned, it's easy for change to lead to disaster. So again, we need to, working collaboratively, it allows people to adapt to that change as well. So there's some massive things that we're picking out here, the problem solving, the adaptability, and then we look into goal alignment as well. So as we said a minute ago, a team reaches a common goal through a combination of individual and team-driven efforts. So with a clear goal in mind, and this has to be for everybody, everyone understands their role and the purpose within that piece of work. So it means that you can combine your abilities and your knowledge to improve your workflow and achieve a common goal. So aligning on these goals leads to team-wide support and contributing to all-round skill sharing and increased productivity. I don't know about you guys, but it's really satisfactory. It's satisfying. Spit my words out. It's really satisfying when you've got a bit of experience in an area that nobody knows about, and sometimes you say, well, actually, I've done something similar to that, or I've worked in a similar environment to that. It makes you feel that you're really contributing, and when you feel that you're contributing, it makes you feel worth. It gives you a sense of worth, and when you've got a sense of worth, you're going to work much harder, and it will increase productivity. So try and get as many people involved, within your teams. Obviously, not unnecessarily, but if you can, especially when we're working with individual departments, try and get people involved in different projects and share those with people that might not necessarily work together. Because by collaborating and sharing skills, not only is that other individual going to grow and learn a little bit more, but it's also going to make people feel valued. And that also goes to staff retention as well. I know that in our services, it's quite a high staff turnover plus say. So, make people feel that they have a purpose, make people feel that they have got a contribution, and that all comes down to collaboration and giving people a little bit of autonomy. We also touch on engagement here as well. So a supported employee is a satisfied employee. Again, exactly as what I just said. So one who is comfortable sharing ideas. So again, they have to be comfortable to share ideas. So we have to think about that unconscious bias. How are we giving our personality off? Are we closed off or are we open? Are we allowing people to share ideas? So it's looking at those non-verbal cues. Are we sitting there like that and rolling our eyes? If we're doing that, the chances are somebody's not going to share any ideas with you. So we need to look at those, those non-verbal cues as well, but also prepared to tackle what's next. So a satisfied team member comes in each day ready to work and help the rest of the team. And that's really collaboration. So engagement is important for many workplace benefits. It's productivity, profitability, retention, and happiness, and loads more. So getting people to work on a piece of work, again, in a collaborative way, it really pulls all those benefits and positives out. But we also need to allow the employee to raise any concerns if they don't understand what it is, again, so that their job is within that piece of work. So it's important that they've got that open forum and they've got that communication means. It might be that that employee might find it challenging to have a conversation. So if you are working with somebody, it might be worth saying, well, listen, if you don't understand exactly what it is, I'm happy for you to drop me an email, drop me a text, send me a WhatsApp, whatever means of communication we have, because although we might prefer a phone call, the individual that's working on that piece of work might feel that that's a little bit too challenging for them. So a text message might work. So just think a little bit creatively in the way that people can engage with you. So more places are prioritising employee engagement as a metric for success. Again, we're measuring that now. We're measuring the success of engagement. And it's crucial to foster a collaborative environment for better engagement. If we're not working collaboratively, then the conversation's going to go down the pan. So if you want to be engaged with the teammate, consider all the benefits of collaboration in the workplace to improve your own performance and support your team as well. Remember, we've all got a lot to learn off each other. So allow people the forum to be able to share that as well. Trust each other sometimes can be hard if you've got trust issues or you've been let down in the past, but knowing everybody's roles and being familiar with the responsibility of those roles creates efficiency and it allows us to be flexible as well. So ideas for clarifying roles on the team include, so review team members' roles frequently. Are they in the best place? Relate team members' expectations to the team's overall purpose. Clarify responsibilities when action planning. So again, this is when we may be doing a piece of work, a joint piece of work with multi-agency. Learn what others do on the team as well. So again, do you know your team well enough? Do you know what skills they can bring to the table? I know that, as I said, we're all busy, but we're also humans. And if you want that retention, you really need to spend that time to get to know your team members and get to know what their skills and strengths are. Get to know what they like doing in their spare time. I always find, and I'm sure you'll probably agree, you find out more whether we're working with an individual or, a teammate. You find out more when you move that sheet to one side and you have a conversation. We just have a conversation and you just find out about that person. And that is the first steps, really. And even if you're working with an individual that we might need some collaborative work on in the future, take that assessment form to one side, put that down for a minute, talk to people like humans. What does a good day look like for you? What does a bad day look like for you? Have those general conversations, because with those conversations, that will build the foundation of the collaborative work that we pull in together. And trust in each other, it allows us to figure out ways to help each other and to pick on different skills as well. So trust, again, is a massive part within collaborative working. We also want people and ourselves to be able to communicate openly and effectively. And this is really what I said a minute ago as well, is we need to look at the way that our communication style is. We also need to be looking at the individual as well. So miscommunication can create hard feelings and it can push people away as well. And it can really jeopardize the overall plan of that collaborative piece of work. Sometimes we can pick up on, we might pick up on miscommunicate bad vibes and things like that. And I'm sure that sometimes, you might go to a meeting and you think, God, they weren't very friendly. They probably were. We just didn't, have the time to be able to communicate with them. So mindfulness is if over communicating. So if we're talking too much, then we need to pull in a little bit of mindfulness. Again, it's a really good strategy that we use. Seek to understand all angles of the issue that we're working through. Take responsibility for being heard and understood. Work to clear up misunderstandings quickly and accurately. The longer we leave problems going on, the longer it's going to take to rectify this piece of work. And we can also lose trust with teammates and the individuals if we're working with them as well. And it's reinforce and recognise team members' efforts. They might not have done it right, but they might spend a long time on that. And if we haven't articulated ourselves clearly, somebody's going to go away and put something different together. So we need to make sure that we're all understanding exactly what the objective is, and we're understanding and accepting and recognising that people are making the effort. Again, there is some accountability within that as well, but generally speaking, we do need to recognise that effort's been made. So teams need to recognise that they should measure and monitor products and services the team provides, as well as the team's internal group dynamics and relationships. So ideas for creating that balance can include regular review and evaluate the effectiveness of team meetings if we're looking at a collaborative piece of work. So if we're looking at multi-agency meetings, let's not have a meeting for sake's sake because we're getting together and it's great to see each other. Hold those meetings and make sure that, that they are effective. And when we're going through that plan, that we're actually going through it and making sure that we're identifying things that might take longer or shorter and giving people the time to do that. Hold team celebrations for achieving results. Again, I just mentioned that a minute ago. It's really crucial. We don't just want to hammer down on people that have underperformed or not managed to pull that piece of work or that part of that work that collaborates to that. We also want to celebrate that. We also want to take people aside and give them that individual praise as well. So it might be that you just send an email to that individual, or you might want to send it, BCC the whole group in, just so that that person feels that they've been acknowledged. I personally don't, I don't work off praise, but it's really nice when you do hear, when you do get, well done, that went really well. It makes us feel valued. And, when you know that you're doing something good, it makes you want to do it even more. So give people more of that. Design individual performance goals and emphasize both results and teamwork. So again, you want to work individually with that. And we've got, you can use that as supervisions, one-to-ones and things like that. Assign certain team members to monitor task needs and others to monitor relationship needs as well. So again, somebody in the team might be able to do that fact find. So I always say that if you're having a team day, an away day is, get like that lottery card. You can make lottery cards and you can write things on there. Somebody that speaks another language, somebody that's worked in a different local authority, somebody that drives a red car. And a really good example of getting to know each other and building on that collaboration is get everybody with the same card. You have to go around and try and find out who has all of these things. And the first person to win the bingo card might get a little prize. But it's fun, it's interactive, it makes people feel, it's using it in a fun way and it's building those relationships, but also seeing where people's skills are outside of work as well. Again, just a little idea there. So ways that we can improve on or build collaborative skills as well. So avoid problems with unfinished projects and disgruntled workers. So you should devote time and energy to teaching team members how to collaborate. It's really, really important that for a successful team, we need to make the time to allow people to collaborate. We've got some examples here. So clarify the purpose and the vision with the individual. Acknowledge strengths and weaknesses. And I think when we do acknowledge those strengths and weaknesses, we want people to be aware of those weaknesses, but we don't want people to be scrutinized on their weaknesses. So we tend to find that people are good at things and they're strong at things because they enjoy doing them more. So rather than turning everybody into a robot, let's work on their strengths. Let's make them mindful of the areas for development and offer them training and development for that. But let's give them more work that works towards people's strengths. That way, people are going to feel more valued and the collaboration input is going to be much more high end. Provide adequate resources. Again, there's no point in asking people to do things if we're not providing them with the right equipment, whether that be technology or anything of that kind. People need to be able to have those resources. Invest in automation. So again, allow people to take ownership of that. Celebrate achievements and successes. I've got that in there again. That's a really big thing I'm trying to echo in. Provide the team with educational opportunities. Define expectations. Hold team building activities that I just mentioned a minute ago. Promote a communication culture. So again, it's understanding people's different communication styles. If they're not happy with something, it's allowing them to be able to communicate that in a few different ways as well. Promote openness and diversity and treat mistakes as opportunities for improvement. And that's how we're all going to work at collaborative working. And again, that's working within the organisation. So just to wrap that up, God, I can't believe I got that all out. I don't know about you guys, but I'm completely bored of my voice. So just to wrap that up, so developing collaboration skills effectively is not a one and done deal. It's something that we have to embed as part of culture. We don't just say, right, okay, work on this, work on that. As managers, team members, we need to know where these skills are. So just doing it once and saying, well, yeah, we worked on that, that's not really effective. I'd also suggest that you look at the CARE Act when we look at co-production as well. So that's more collaboration within the individual. And the CARE Act is now really trying to move towards that co-production work, which really is collaboration with the individual. So you and the group can improve this practice, and one approach is to take advantage of all the available resources. You can find them online, or you can contact myself at the end. Getting every team member on board with new plans and objectives is crucial. So when you do if you're not holding team meetings, I would really say we need to get back into that, because people that are part of the team, they can contribute really good ideas to that, and that will help the culture grow, where workers are more invested within their work, they're more open to new ideas and more capable of collaboration to expand that general knowledge of areas as well. So just to take away then, collaborative workplaces are increasingly favoured among employees and pave the way for more effective interaction between colleagues and increased idea sharing. Establishing an open creative culture where all ideas are acknowledged, might not be the best, might be the worst, but that will encourage employees to collaborate and innovate, where improvement and transparency from the top down is essential in motivating employees. So it's all very well saying staff's got to do it, but our managers doing that as well. Provide regular feedback and offer team rewards to maintain a high level of collaboration. Again, it doesn't have to be a financial reward. It could just be, depending on what you've got within your area. Encourage collaboration by providing the appropriate technology support, and make sure that everybody's got everything that they've got to be able to do it, and also that they can participate and share their ideas without being scrutinized as well. So just remember, everybody's got different experiences, everybody's got different skills, and everybody has a piece in collaboration work as well. So don't be a closed book, share things and learn your team and also the individuals.